is up, my beautiful warriors? Today we are going over the final episode of 13 Reasons Why. Now, the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because 13 Reasons Why is actually a very good show with a lot of great lessons into it. And unfortunately, a lot of parents saw this, and teenagers, didn't really see the big picture of this show. I think they ended it excellently, honestly, because the last episode had the most lessons overall to learn, and that's what I wanted to talk about today. But yeah, people thought that it was terrible and that it was making their kids sick when they really should have been getting their children help instead of blaming the show, because actually this show was giving a lot of great input and it showed a lot of things that could happen in real life, which is why, and I think they portrayed that excellently in this show. Anyway, I actually have some notes in front of me. First, we're going to talk about Clay's therapist and some of the things he said. So, he actually mentioned something very deep. He used to think that the world didn't make sense, is what he told me. So Clay used to think the same thing as Clay, that the world didn't make sense and nothing fit together. And his therapist teacher said to try and begin. That's when he started to find out where he was meant to be, and that was helping kids like himself and Clay, which I thought was really, really amazing. So a lot of your own life events can actually help you to find where you need to be in life, along with what you're interested in. You can't change other people, you can only change yourself. You can't just go and try and change everybody else when you're part of the problem. So after I was watching this episode, I found that in my opinion, that Justin was clearly very sick. And I also thought that he could probably also would have been able to use therapy as well, like on top of the rehab, like his own personal therapist, or because I think that would have he would have had somebody else to talk to personally about his problems. Just like Clay, he found a lot However, he was probably very sick before that because he did have an STI. So it probably would have lasted him longer if he didn't relapse again. But, anyways, the next thing I want to talk about is Clay's speech, which was one of the biggest parts of the show, I think. And Clay says, even on the worst day, life is pretty spectacular. There's always going to be lessons to learn on hard days. So pay attention to something good. So pay attention. Something good can come out of it. It will get better if you observe and allow. So just make note of that. Just observe your day and see what you could have learned from the bad things that have happened. And on the good days, well, they're good days. Just observe it. Just say things happen and go on with your life, because we can't have good days without bad days. It's a balance. That's just how life is. You gotta see the beauty in all things. After that, Clay's figmentation appeared beside his figmentation of Bryce. And then Clay asks Justin, why is Ghost you hanging out with Bryce, even in my head? Then Justin says, we loved each other, me and him. We were brothers. You can love someone even if they did bad shit. You can forgive people, even the people that hurt you worst. Which is super strong words. And it's true. In order to move on in life, you have to even forgive the people that did terrible things to you. You have to realize that a lot of people have their own shit to deal with. And everybody makes mistakes. So, unfortunately, there's people who will do bad things. And in my opinion, when you're that age, your brain hasn't fully developed yet. And so you're going to make a lot of mistakes in your teen years. That's pretty much the age of making mistakes. And then you learn from them. You pick yourself up, you look over your past, and you have to move on. That's the only way you can live through high school and the life of being a teenager. Yeah, like I said, forgiveness is powerful. And you don't have to go back to somebody that hurt you. However, forgiving somebody is how you move on, like I said. It's just, you don't have to forgive them face to face. You can forgive them internally through like meditation. And there's actually this Hawaiian form called Ho'oponopono. I forgive you, thank you. I forgive you, I'm sorry, thank you, and I love you. Because regardless of what that person did, they gave you a lesson to learn. And that's what you have to take from it. Okay, so that's what I think that this show is showing here. That's exactly what Clay did with Hannah, is he forgave her. So when he saw her figmentation. And Justin says, when you forgive someone, it's more for you than them, which is completely true. Because you're forgiving yourself for being hurt. You're forgiving yourself for putting yourself down due to the situation. And that's how you need to move on, is to forgive the other person. So anyways, when he's forgiving Hannah, he's saying, hate is easy, love and understanding is harder. So my notes I wrote. People constantly frustrate us on a daily basis. But do we ever stop and think about why they treat us, like I said previously, do we ever stop and think why they treat us poorly? There could be something going on in their life, and unfortunately they use that pent-up anger and hatred and frustration, sadness, all of those feelings to hurt other people in order to use these methods to try to make themselves feel better, when evidently it doesn't really do anything. So do you ever even stop and think what this person might be going through? Just like what happened to Hannah. Everyone was bullying her, and they never really considered her feelings or her story. And unfortunately, that's what led to her committing suicide. And that's what we have to think about. Okay? Yes, this is a good point too. Children are still learning, and they use the option that they think makes sense. That's what we have to think about too. When we're teenagers, our mind is still developing, like I said. That's why they bully. That's why they make mistakes. And we have to think about that. That's why we need to look at the signs and get them help before something happens. Okay? So, anyways, yes, parent parents don't really know how to teach their children at times because um they still don't. Most of them, I'm not saying all, most of them don't know how to deal with their feelings also. That's why I believe that meditation should be taught in schools. This could really help people. And it can help everybody understand everything a little more. So, so in result of them not knowing how to deal with their emotions, they end up saying the kid did something wrong. They get mad and they send the kid to their room or ground them. But that doesn't really do anything. Let's be real. That's just isolating them. You're not talking to them about what they did wrong. You're not teaching them anything if you just lock them up and ground them. You gotta sit them down. Ground them. Yes, that's a good idea. And lock them in the room. Get them to calm down first. Let them do their little thing. And then get them to come out, sit down with you, and talk about why they did it, and so on and so forth. Because you should start developing a relationship with your child when they're at a young age. Otherwise, they will rebel. They will not really listen and hear you. So we have to be mindful of these things. Anyway, after that scene with Hannah and with Clay and Justin, all those figmentations, then we come to the group burying Hannah's tapes. And this part was awesome because it's like Zach says, come on people, let's pile on the closure dirt. And that's exactly what they did. They put a close to the situation and they moved on. And then we see Jessica's figmentation of Bryce. He shows up and he wants credit for that day. The day we all know what happened. And then Jessica gets really defensive, and but then she then realizes that if it wasn't for Bryce and her situation, that she never would have met all of her group and made friends with them. And that was her closure. She took a negative situation and turned it into a positive. That's basically how we have to get through life. And So, oh, yes. What I love about the group of friends is that they basically blow out every single societal norm out there. All of the little cliques that they have in like any school. Like they're a mixture of jocks, they're a mixture of LGBTQ, they're a mixture of preps, they're um, straight, different races, girls, boys. They threw all this, how can I say it? This universe threw all of the every single clique there is out there, and they threw them all together to make this group of friends, and that is what I love about this. You shouldn't judge people just because of their little groups. Just like each other for who you are, and that's it. That's how you make good friends. Anyways, then we get to the real emotional stuff. Well, the entire episode was emotional. Let's be real, people. If you didn't cry throughout this entire episode, I don't know who you are. But anyways, so Justin's college essay. That was some deep stuff. So out of his trauma, out of Justin's trauma and bad decisions, he had a drug addict mom, he had a stepdad that beat him up, his mom left him, ran off with her stupid boyfriend. So he didn't know what to do, where to go. He ran off himself and became homeless. And he became an addict like his mother. And then he got raped. And he definitely would have spent his last year in a living hell. But Clay found him and got him better. His parents took him in, adopted him, and he was happy. Justin spent his last year alive, happy, and he had a family, and that truly loved him. And that was some real deep stuff. And so you always gotta see, if we just keep spending life going through the negatives, going through the past, we're never gonna be happy. So you have to forgive, move on, Learn to adjust your emotions better. Live in the moment. Don't think too far ahead. Don't think too far behind. Just live life. And that's just what you gotta do. Pick yourself up and get through it. Because anybody can do it. You just have to believe in yourself. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you took something from this. And comment down below what you thought about this episode and if you took anything from this episode. But I hope you enjoyed this video.